we made quite extensive requests over to their side, both verbally, both in email, both in text messages, chasing them down to try and engage with us in a quicker fashion last week. And it fell down because, quite frankly, we got to a point with them where the communication coming back from them and the substance of that communication, probably more accurate, was lacking. There was no ambition on their side to help me try and keep the thing going. That's what it felt like by the end of it. And, we got to a point, I think, I heard Eddie say on that the last time we spoke was on Thursday. I think in video interviews that he did yesterday, he said that it was actually Wednesday. The truth of the matter is we were waiting for a turnaround on a contract to come back to them on Wednesday evening. We didn't get that. We instead got an email, a request from Frank Smith, who obviously works for Matchroom, to ask us if we'd be still, up for having discussions and to continue discussions. Quite quickly after that, Eddie and I spoke late in the night. It was left that he was going to email me something over to the extent of dealing with what they declared as their final issue related to the way that we drafted the contract, which was related to our position of having final say. On that call, I suggested that we insert some type of language to deal with having an arbitrator, a mediator in the place to settle disputes. We followed that up on Thursday, inviting them to engage with us on that last, I think, real remaining outstanding point at the top line. And that email didn't get responded to. The only conversations that I've had with them since then, I tried to call Eddie a couple of times on Thursday, calls, didn't get back to me. I briefly spoke with Freddie Cunningham about 8:30 in the morning Thursday. It was left that he was going to come back to me and let me know their position on how quickly they wanted to move on this thing. I chased him up with a phone call, didn't get a return on the text that I sent him. And the last bit of communication was myself and Frank Smith. We spoke on Friday, not relating to this, but to a different fight that we're looking to try and finish and finalise with Matchroom very quickly. On that call, we briefly touched on it. He said that he'd been out the loop. He'd been away travelling for work, but was going to catch up with his side and come back to me and let me know if there was anything that they could do in the short term to keep the conversations going. I didn't hear back. So my assumption is they, as a group, just decided for whatever reason they didn't want to.
Oh my God. What's good, family? Big shout out to my big boss man, Doggy Catalin, for coming through and boosting the coin. No doubt about it. So we just heard there from your mans, George Warren, airing out and leaking. Super duper. Listen, these end of the day, man. This is some super duper leaked info right now. George Warren breaking it down, and to some extent, listen. Yesterday, I told you that this whole situation is a big bulbous, buff-looking ass headfuck. Bottom line, I wasn't sure what to believe, and ultimately, I ended up going back to where I felt safe, which was in the comfort knowing that AJ is desperate to lose again and get paid a lot for doing so. That's what I trust. I know that. I know my man loves to lose. I know my man loves Max Coin. Now, also bear in mind yesterday was when Eddie Hearn came out and kind of put his little bit of shillery on top of it. So yesterday I was happy to kind of relax there. Yep, Eddie Hearn shilling, saying that it was Frank Warren and Frank Warren wasn't getting back to him and whatever else. And then adding that with my logic, I was happy there. 2-2s. We now find out, or allege, and this is the thing, it is all, I'm not sure what to believe. Both sides say people weren't getting back. Both sides say, Eddie Hearn was saying yesterday, he hadn't heard from George for 2 days and whatever, he hasn't heard from George since Thursday. Now George, in response to that actual allegation, George says he left the conversation that Eddie Hearn was to get back to him. So, end of the day, man, I think, truth be known, I think both sides are happy for this fight not to happen right now, bottom line. Because if George Warren's saying Eddie Hearn was supposed to get back to me, and to be fair to George, or leaning toward Team Fury's side, if George didn't want it, now again, the problem is, you see, we don't know what's true and what's not true. George has just said he contacted about 5 people. Freddie Cunningham, AJ's manager, Eddie Hearn, and Frank Smith. He alleges all 3 have not got back to him when they were supposed to. Now, if that's the case, clearly, Team AJ have shut the bed. But then again, like I said, Eddie Hearn was saying Thursday is the last time I heard from Team Fury, and we haven't heard from them since. Now, to be fair to Team Warren, Eddie Hearn said he hasn't heard from Team Fury since, but he didn't say he was supposed to. Listen, Eddie, you wouldn't necessarily hear from them if you were the one supposed to get back to them. Now, to be fair to Eddie Hearn, George Warren says that he's tried to follow up with them. So that's a contradiction there. Eddie Hearn says since Thursday we haven't heard from him. George Warren just said that he's been following up and trying to keep on it. So which is it again? And that's the thing, you see. The waffles, a few days ago, I gave Tyson Fury credit for leaking some... I've been saying for a long time, all negotiations should be done publicly. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. All dodgy negotiations, yeah? Any friction should be done publicly. Listen, if you man can get a fight done in quiet on your own, get a fight done in quiet on your own. If you're struggling, make it all public. Everything. It should be a public thing. That way, there's no confusion. The problem right now is, you see, unfortunately, we don't know what's what. And that's why it's quite intriguing, really. Eddie Hearn, remember Luis Ortiz? And I really rate Eddie Hearn. Really, we've gone backwards since then. Really, we haven't had no more leaks since then. Luis Ortiz came out and said, oh, AJ Duck and me, whatever. 2-2s. Eddie Hearn comes out and leaks the email where Eddie Hearn offered 10 mil and whatever else. And it turned out Luis Ortiz's team had to come out and apologise for lying. But guess what? Eddie Hearn leaked the actual emails. Now, I'm not sure, this situation's a bit more, you know what I mean? It's not as blatantly obvious. But still, Eddie Hearn or George Warren needs to come out and say, look, here's my phone. You can see here, I rang these guys 4 times, and you can see here, there hasn't been no response. At which point, Eddie Hearn can respond to that. And if Eddie Hearn disagrees, he can come along and say, boom, they're lying, is deleted information, etc, etc. But at the end of the day, man, the only thing I can really conclude here is that both teams are happy for the fight not to happen. Yeah, that's the only way. Both teams can conclude, or both teams at this point in time just don't want it to happen. I think they're both happy, and I've been saying this for a while, I think they're both happy to kind of sit back and say, oh, in fact, no, I've been saying in general, for example, who was it? Spence and Crawford. Spence and Crawford have been negotiating, and that really is another good example. Look how big Spence and Crawford is. He probably isn't commercially as big as Fury versus AJ. And still, 4 or 5 months of negotiations, and we're none the closer. These things do take time, that's what we do know. However, I've been saying, a lot of these big fights don't happen yet, and I've been speculating, why when these big fights aren't happening, why hasn't Terence Crawford come out and exposed Errol Spence? Why hasn't Errol Spence come out and exposed Terence Crawford? My conclusion was, both teams are clearly happy for the fight not to happen. Because if it was me, yeah, if I was desperate to clap someone's cheeks for tens of millions of dollars, yeah, and it was the other side bugging, I'd be out here saying, listen man, you're bugging right now. And here's the evidence. This guy's bugging, this guy's scary. This guy don't want me to clap his cheeks good and proper. Yeah? We ain't seen none of that from anyone. And to be quite frank, yeah, we've heard the back and forth from Eddie and Team Warren, but we haven't seen the actual documents. And even to be quite frank, I'm not even sure what at this point in time, they're both blaming each other. And even if they were to come out with screenshots, even then, what could you, unless, it's not one of them ones, is it? It's not like they're arguing over a split. It's kind of like, even if someone did show their phone records, you can delete. You know what I mean? It gets silly at that point, doesn't it? At the end of the day, man, neither one of these sides are going to admit it's them. And you can craft, he's deleted this. You know what I mean? You can delete calls, you can delete messages. Oh, I never got that message. And then one's there. You know what I mean? For all we know, if George Warren has been trying to blow up Eddie Hearn's phone, all he's got to say is, all Eddie Hearn's got to do, delete the message. You know what I mean? One of them ones. Oh, I never got it. Oh, one of them ones. At the end of the day, man, the only fair conclusion to make, anyone who sits there and tells you it's this side or the other, there's way too many things going on. There's way too many bits back in believing AJ wants to fight. For example, AJ, to be fair to him, has never ducked a fight. In all fairness, AJ has never ducked a fight. He took Ruiz on 5 weeks' notice. He wanted, don't forget people, AJ wanted Luis Ortiz that night. Do you understand? Luis Ortiz was his first pick on 5 weeks' notice. Don't forget also, last year, AJ signed to fight Fury. Also don't forget, AJ lost. AJ got no problem losing. He loved to lose. He just lost the middleweight. For half the money, he'll get paid to fight Fury. So I'm sorry. The evidence doesn't completely support that AJ's faffed it. I don't even think it's AJ. If anyone's faffed it, it will be Team Hearn. Equally, hearing George Warren, assuming what he's saying's credible, I can't sit here and tell you it's Team Fury who have fluffed it. There's just way too much back and forth, and it's all convoluted and messy. And this sums up the sport of boxing. And really, that's why the governing bodies need to be much more active. The governing bodies, for the most part, yeah, they hang around doing what? Nothing. I think the governing bodies need to take a much more Dana White kind of role, where they're bang on it, involved. Yeah, I know Dana White's a promoter, but still, as far as managing their belts goes, they should be active. For example, they should be saying right now, Tyson Fury, you're not fighting Bumwood Char. Yeah, that's what I tell you what you're not going to do. Listen, if I was WBC, yeah, I'll be saying, listen, Fury, you're holding the green belt, the Premier belt. I'll tell you who you ain't. I'm like, listen, Fury, man, listen. Let me tell you, of all the people you may be fighting, let me tell you who definitely ain't fighting. Yeah? Let me tell you who not fighting. Bumwood Char. How about that? Let's start there. Let's not worry about who you are fighting. Let's start with, yeah? Let's start with who you're definitely not fighting. Bumwood Char. Let's put him at the top of the list, yeah? For all the fights out there, I tell you who it won't be. Bumwood Char. How about that? That's what you need to start. It's not going to be Bumwood. Yeah? It's not going to be another bum. I'm going to give you a list. These are a list of cats you can fight. Yeah? Ruiz. Ortiz. Even though Ortiz lost, he's 10 times better than Bumwood. And we know Ortiz come to fight. Ortiz. Ruiz. Joyce. Dubois. Simple as that. If you don't like it, you can drop the belt. Simple as that. Yeah, that's how all belts need to be moving right now. Or forevermore. And that way, it sorts a lot of things out. Because then there'd be no speculating, would there? We'd know, listen, end of the day, Fury's going to be fighting a top banger. At the moment, the speculation is, well, YB, Fury doesn't want to fight AJ, he wants to fight Char. Well, that wouldn't be a problem, would it? That little argument there wouldn't exist if Bumwood was off the cards. Or Chisora. We know for a fact Chisora's got an offer to fight Fury again. What's that about? No one want to watch that. And this whole conversation really is aside from the AJ and Fury debacle. But still, it's all interlinked in my opinion. Because the reason Fury potentially is less motivated to fight AJ is because he's licking his chops. We know Fury loves to fight bums. It's well renowned. It's well documented. Fury loves to fight bums. Yeah? Loves to fight them. That's just what it is. Yeah, but he loves to fight a bum. Does Fury. So nothing's changed there. And that's why it's supposed to be the governing body's job to say, listen, Mr. Bumslayer. Yeah? You ain't fighting bums. You're a WBC champion. If you want to drop the belt and fight all the bums, that's your prerogative. But whilst these cats have the belts, they should be honouring it expeditiously. What does a champion stand for? A champion doesn't stand... Listen, what are you? Are you a champion or a bumpion? Yeah? Because if you're a bumpion, you can fight Bumwood Char. You can fight all the bottom of the barrel dons. But a champion's supposed to mean you fight the next best guy. I ain't trying to hear about. I'm sick of these guys, yeah, who fight once a year, talking about warm-up. Listen, if you was more active, if you weren't faffing around, who else in the world, yeah, gets to do 8 weeks of work a year? Who does that? Who do you know can work 8 weeks? No one does. I ain't trying to hear about that. Yeah, if you're a champion, the minimum should be twice a year. If you don't like it, you can drop the belt. Because at the end of the day, man, we keep hearing about, these guys are super athletes. These guys are super fit. Right there. These guys are super athletes and they can't fight more than once a year. The fuck? If you're telling me a super athlete can't perform twice a year, if you're telling me a super athlete champion can't perform twice a year consistently or mandatorily, you ain't got no business having a belt. Yeah? If your body can't hold up to fight twice a year, go be a bum. Yeah? You've got no business holding a belt. A belt is supposed to represent the best in the division, the best in the world. And the best in the world is a man who's fit enough and able enough and willing enough and thirsty enough to represent twice a year. This once a year business, when did we get into that? I don't get that. What's that about? In what other sport, do you only have to turn up once a year? What sport? I never heard of that one. Every other sport, you're doing like 10, football, they have World Cup and then Euro Champions League and they have like 5 different competitions. Never mind the individual times they play. Yeah? But that's all more different conversation, but it's all interlinked, bottom line. I'm going to sign off this topic now. I ain't trying to talk about this topic no more. End of the day, both sides were happy for this fight not to happen. That's what I believe. The evidence shows Fury happy, or Team Fury happy for it not to happen. the evidence shows Team AJ happy for it not to happen. I think they've all been sitting there just happy, bottom line happy for it not to happen. And I can't even argue with that. My whole thing was, why bother? Why bother faffing around? I didn't even want this bum fight, just God's honest truth. I wanted this fight 18 months ago when it made sense. Right now, not even a bit. Yeah? I ain't trying to hear from no one, yeah? I ain't trying to hear none of this rubbish. Get it signed and then tell us you're thinking about it, yeah? Get it all signed away and then mention it. Don't be mentioning things too early. Or, in fact, don't mention things at all until they're done. Just don't mention it. Keep it to yourself. Yeah? Don't bother no one. Especially with fights I didn't even want to see. Okay, now, smash the like button. Subscribe. Show man know why he beat and he'll be back on the next 100%.